Welcome back to our series of
Hi.
FSHD Society Sequester Camp webinars. We're so excited once again to be joined by Bill Hertzberg. I'm pointing at Bill on my computer screen. You guys don't know that I'm pointing at him. And his trainer, Mitch. They've been with us for almost 2 months now, if you can believe that. And they're giving us their fitness demonstrations. Bill, I would love for you to just, before we get started, revisit on the very first day that we did this. You talked about when you started with Mitch and where you were physically, mentally, all of this, and how far you've come. I would love for you just to tell that story one more time to the folks that are on.
Sure. I was afraid, just to put it bluntly. I was afraid that even though there was new data to suggest that exercise was going to improve my strength, I had been avoiding exercise of my arms for fear of aggravating weakness. I saw Mitch after I was disabled from my work because of profound weakness, largely in my arms, but elsewhere as well, with grade 2/5 biceps and flicker triceps. So the MRC grade is Medical Research Council grading system. 2/5 means I didn't have enough strength to bring my hand to my mouth against gravity. I could move the biceps when removing gravity, and I didn't even have that much tricep strength. My shoulders were curved forward. My posture was as such poor. I had weak abdominal muscles. I had, and I still have, weak dorsiplantar flexion in the lower legs and some hamstring weakness as well. And I was afraid, but I had asked Mitch to read an article that described the use of physical therapy exercises in FSHD and the potential benefit, and that's why I was willing to try it again. And after a while, I stopped being fearful. I wasn't sore after the exercises. It took a while to see real improvement, and I was sort of impatient to see some improvement, but that came soon enough. So that was my initial feeling, and I was happy to meet someone who was willing to take my problem seriously and to learn enough to help me work through it. And Mitch is the guy.
We had fun, absolutely. It's been a wonderful adventure so far. It's you know, I think an important part about that is that, you know, it did take us a little while. It took us a lot of time to see some, you know, big end results there. It was not instant. You know, it is a plan that we made, and we stuck to it for a long time. That's a big achievement for Bill and I as well.
Well, great.
So,
the video issues,
yeah, I'm having issue right now. I'm not sure. I tried to get off of Wi-Fi here, so this is probably my own fault as to trying to post the videos about 15 minutes beforehand. I should maybe do that before so we don't have these issues. I just like it to be fresh. So I'm not too sure. I'm trying to get that rolling, but really, regardless, we can still talk about the videos here. I mean, a lot of what people have been asking me about is lower back pain, lordosis. And so to explain that real quick, lordosis, we have 4 different sections, mostly in our spine. We have our cervical spine, it's up by the neck. And then we have our thoracic spine, it's more around like the midsection. And then our lumbar spine. We also have our sacral, that's why I said 4. But kind of the 3 main that people talk a lot about within our vertebra are our lumbar, our thoracic, and our cervical. So the lumbar spine, that's a little bit more of your lower back area. The natural curvature of our spine in that area goes forward. The reason we have curvature in our spine is more so for compression. So if you were to jump off of something and land, we wouldn't want it all to just be right on top of each other. That can make it to the point where we are at higher risk for injury. So with that same sense, though, we don't want it to be more curvy necessarily than it should be naturally. So when it goes further forward, it can create a little bit of tension and tightness in the low back, giving you pain areas around that spot. And a lot of times it's due to a weaker abdominal muscles, and specifically more the lower abdominal muscles. So Bill, why don't you kind of talk to some people about that, of, you know, what we noticed, how long did that take? How long, when did it start affecting you? You know, we haven't
Sure.
necessarily had back pain for yourself, but, you know, is that because we have hopped on this? Will you give a little bit of feedback yourself there?
Well, I think pain is kind of variable, and even the muscle weakness in FSH is variable. There can be asymmetry and different degrees of weakness, even in the affected areas, from side to side and distribution. I do have lower abdominal muscle weakness, so that means the muscles that contract and bring me, say, if I were to do a sit-up, the muscles at the belly button and below would be weak. A belly button and above would be relatively strong. And that's a common pattern in FSH population. So I had an exaggerated curvature, that lumbar lordosis. And at times, if I were standing a lot or walking a lot, I might suffer some back pain. And I found that with the exercises that Mitch laid out, and this was not a huge problem for me, I might add, but my abdominal muscles strengthened and pain became less frequent. I also think just doing treadmill walking and spending more time upright may have been helpful in that regard, because it toned up the abdominal and other core musculature as well.
Absolutely.
I want to throw in a little bit more about the lumbar lordosis. When people have an exaggerated curvature, it's normal to have a little bit of curvature, as Mitch explained. That puts a lot of pressure on the vertebral compression bodies and the intervertebral discs between the bony parts of the spine, and that can cause disc rupture and irritation of nerve roots and the like. And those are super common problems, which people with FSH, we already have enough problems. We don't need those on top of them. So this is a good set of exercises for anyone, I think, with abdominal weakness.
Absolutely. Let's start with more of our simple exercise, where we can kind of start for like beginners rather, and where we started, but yet let's remind that as well. We'll still start sessions like this all the time, and I will do that with anybody and everybody as well. I just call it core bracing. So we referred to this a couple of weeks ago when we talked about it. It's really just, you are on your back, lying on your back on the ground. And when I speak about that natural curvature of your low back, when you're lying on the ground, you should have a little bit of space in that low back area. And so if we flatten it down to the ground, that oftentimes creates our core musculature to contract, to be supportive. And so that's what I refer to as core bracing. So I think Bill is with me right here, since we're having a little bit of difficulty with some posting of the videos. It's very close. I'm hoping it works. I'm really bummed because I had about 10 videos to show you guys today. But Bill is going to demonstrate right now of what a core bracing is. So as you see, he's just in a bent knee position. So feet are flat on the ground. You can't see his feet, but his feet are flat on the ground. Knees are bent. So right there, his low back is just naturally kind of coming off the ground, and that's okay. But when we're looking for a core brace and to activate the core, he's going to try to bring that lower back flat to the ground and feel the core musculature kind of activate. For the most part, I usually ask people, can you feel your core? And they say, yeah, okay. And sometimes it might just be connecting the brain to the movement as well. So we'll do this for about 20 seconds, kind of keep it simple. And then I'll have them, relax. Sometimes I want to almost see the abdominal, or like maybe the stomach muscles grow when they relax. You can kind of see the change, and make them feel that as well. A small cue I will use is to not use your feet. So don't just use your feet to drive into the ground to allow the low back to go there. Try to find the core to almost squeeze, like as if you're, someone was maybe about to slap you in the belly and you kind of went, and brought in the breath, held the breath and pulled in the abdominal, or pulling the belly button to the spine. Some people will say that for a cue. A lot of cues are different are good for different people. So you just kind of have to figure it out within the process. That is the fun part that me and Bill have too, is, we have fun while we do it, and things do change. Different cues, we talk about different things. If it's not working, we're not just going to say, okay, yeah, that's okay, it's fine. no, we're gonna totally dive in a little bit deeper and get a little bit more of a, you know, further explanation if Bill needs it to understand. We're going to go to the second exercise, and we're still hoping this loads, so I do apologize. It's the cross-body sit-up. So, Bill, go ahead and put your ankle on top of the knee. Yep. And then your left hand is going to go behind your head. So I call it the cross-body sit-up, is we are working kind of a cross-body connection of muscles. So it's almost at the, you know, the left shoulder over to that right hip, right knee, abdominal area. A lot of our movement patterns are that way. When you step forward with the left foot, your right arm will swing. If you go the opposite way, you'd almost kind of turn right, turn left. Absolutely. Bill, they're asking if they can see you. So I want you to, can you scoot towards the fireplace a tad bit and give us maybe a little bit of a bigger,
let me,
bigger window there?
Coffee table.
No problem. No problem.
Is this better?
Looks just fine to me. Oh, so Bill, I want you to speak while you do it, because when I'm speaking, it's going to show me on there. So I want you to, this is going to be an extra exercise for you. Just count. I want you to count here.
I'm doing the cross-body sit-up. And I'm talking just so that the camera stays on me. I don't have anything very much to say.
You can count your reps. I have a few clients do that too. There you go.
2, 3.
Good.
4.
Bill, why don't you switch sides?
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Perfect. Bill, let's go ahead and review the core bracing. So let's show people again, just in case we probably didn't have you on screen and if I was chatting. So I want the low back.
Forward and elevate my head as well.
We're gonna try to keep the head down. Actually, we're gonna try to keep the head down, so it's really just a light contraction. It's nothing too crazy. If you went head forward, it's gonna be a little bit more pressure of fighting against gravity. So we're still laying on the back and just try to flatten the low back. So what Bill is doing here is his low spine, naturally, it gravitates upwards. We're trying to flatten the low spine to the ground and create core contraction, core activation.
I don't think this makes for great footage, but it does
That's
work.
okay. Yep. This one is simple. So that's what I tried to kind of illustrate that as well, is there's not a whole lot going on. So you can, that's why I kind of chat and ask people, do you feel it? If they don't feel it, we need to make an action there. We need to change something up. Low spine is going flat to the ground. Bring the belly button to the spine or to the ground. Try to find contraction in the core. Bill, so let's do the cross-body sit-up one more time. We'll review there again.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Is good. That is good. So we're going to go into the dead bug position. That is our next spot. So Bill, I want you to go feet off the ground, knees bent, hands up. So even just this position here, what it does when he lifts his knees and feet off the ground, Bill, I'm going to need you to chat here again in a second. When he lifts his feet and knees off the ground, his low back will gravitate already naturally down towards the ground. So it helps get him into a correct position. Bill, chat with me for about 5 seconds.
Look at me on the dead bug. Look at me on the dead bug. You want me to do some alternating exercises?
Now I want you to go into the alternating, so right arm and left leg, and I want you to count your reps. So you go back onto the screen.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Good. Go ahead and switch sides, Bill. Keep counting though, please.
Okay.
You're gonna get a workout today.
I guess I might. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Bill, that is good. That is good. I want you to flip over and say that again.
I want to just mention that I don't think I could have lifted my arm up the full way when we started. I mean,
No.
I couldn't do this.
There's also an improvement there. Me and Bill will have a lot of movements, you know, just randomly where we will look at each other and smile. And once again, I really, you know, this video will post. You guys will have this for reference here soon. There's one video specifically where Bill and we get done with the exercise, and I kept it a little bit longer because what you can see afterwards is we both started smiling and laughing, and not laughing at, you know, one of us. We totally acknowledge the sense that there's no way he could have done that when he first walked in the door, or even just maybe a year ago. So, you know, we are continuously progressing, and that's what a program does. You know, you want to stick to a plan. You want to have a program and have some goals, have some concepts that you're working on. You know, keep things consistent. It really, really helps. It's huge.
And having a trainer like Mitch who was able to break down, I mean, imagine I couldn't lift my arm up off the ground to do that exercise. He'd break it down. I don't think we were doing this particular exercise then. I think we were working more on the ball or on back to the floor without my arms elevated. But
hey, we got good news. Sorry, Bill.
You need someone who can break it down so that you don't get disheartened, because it's frustrating. It's frustrating otherwise. So I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
So
all right, so we've got good news. Got the video loaded. I'm not sure what took so long. I do apologize again. You know, if we have maybe a couple extra minutes, we can go a little bit longer, but I will do the most I can as quickly as I can. So I'm going to get that switched over right now. There, and awesome. Are we able to view?
Yes.
We're active. Wonderful. All right, so this one was just a picture of Bill and I. That's just me having fun. Make it a little bit different than just the exercises. So that's Bill and I a couple of weeks ago, actually, at my gym, Ramp Fitness in Portland, Oregon. So we're going to have a couple of reviews here. The core racing is not on there, and mostly because of the sense of it being very little movement. You don't see a ton. So I can totally go over that again if somebody needs me to. It is very simple. This is the cross-body sit-up. You can see here, Bill's the opposite ankle on the knee. And then it's a cross-body sit-up because his right elbow is going over to his left knee, his left side, creating a contralateral connection, meaning across the body for different side limbs. We'll advance here and go into the next one. This is, again, the dead bug position. Bill went into the dead bug drops, which is, you know, a little bit more of that right arm and left leg. You can also do the same side, right arm, right leg. This one I call the high point curl up, though. So with his hands up in that dead bug position and his feet up too, like I said, when his feet are off the ground, it creates a natural tilt in his pelvis, which also tends to bring the spine to the ground as well, which helps us contract that core like we were speaking of beforehand. I'm very glad this video started loading because this is much better feedback for you guys too, and for you to see visually. We'll slide into the next one here. This is, he is in that same position, the dead bug position, but now he's doing the drops. And that is what's creating the sense of him having to try to contract his core, his lower system there. And he does not want, we don't want a ton of pelvic and spine movement. So as his limbs are moving, is distracting is kind of his torso there from keeping it to the point where it's not moving. And so when the limbs move, he has to then keep it. It looks like it's a little bit delayed here. Sorry. We must just be having some Wi-Fi connections or internet connections around here right now. But when the limbs drop and distracts the body from staying neutrally, you have to activate the core to keep it there and brace the midsection. And that is the dead bug. Then we do a dead bug trap. Now I'm demonstrating with Bill here because this one's a tough one. It's always hard for the brain as well because now we're moving and kind of doing something with all 4 limbs. So the dead bug trap keeps it to the point where his right arm, his right elbow, and his left knee, we want to try to keep them as close to each other as possible, and then move the other limbs throughout. This one burns the midsection and the mid-core. You know, this is definitely more of an advanced version here. I would not have challenged this to Bill again at the very beginning, especially, but really even just a couple years ago. You know, this is a much more of an advanced movement and really attacks that midsection for him. Bill, you want to give any feedback here?
Well, I want to address a question that came from the panelists. I'm sorry, from the audience. Do you feel that planking is the best lower abdominal exercise if you are able?
No, not necessarily. Planking, a high plank and a forearm plank is more so fighting gravity in a little bit of a different way. So I do not think that it is, as I tend to have a lot of people who, if they're overactive in their shoulders, or, you know, as where forearms are down and shoulders are active, it's an easy way. It's a great exercise. Let me go there first. It's a great exercise, but no, I don't find it to be the best exercise, especially more so in Bill's case and with FSH.
We've done some plank maneuvers, like when we do the partial push-ups.
Yep.
But it's not been the emphasis in terms of increasing abdominal strength.
Yeah, I would agree. But it is a great exercise. So can it be included in your program, especially if you're able to do it, if you have, you know, strong enough support systems to actually feel it in the core and not just fatigue the shoulders. The plank is not, I don't look at the plank as a shoulder exercise. I don't want that to be the dominant thing. So that is what I tend to have issues with anybody and everybody, is that sometimes they will over activate, or they will round their, you know, up their scapula or their shoulder blades over top. So I find a lot of other issues there. So focus on the core and get people connection and relationship. I might find a couple of other ones, and, you know, more specifically. I'm on here. On twice. This is a little bit of a different version. So really, this is now called a bird dog, a little bit more of a specific yoga variation here. You know, I'm kind of messing around with Bill a tad bit with his brain, excuse me. Sorry, it's a little bit of a delay again. What you can see once it loads is that his arm is going to just stay in one spot as he moves the lower leg, you know, backwards into extension. So once again, there's a lot of action happening here. Out the ground reference, sometimes it's harder for people to keep their spine and their pelvis neutral. So this, I would say, is an advancement, a progression to the dead bug for Bill's case. No, but kind of the same rules apply. We're moving the limbs and distracting the midsection from being, you know, neutral and in the position where we want to be. As we walk and move, you know, we don't want to dominantly move in the spine. We move through our, they're called, you know, ball and socket joints of our legs, which is our hip joints, and then our shoulders have it too. So those are kind of our main limbs that we get most of our movement from. We want to brace kind of that midsection.
Looks like a cat-cow. And that we're doing
this is a cat-cow, yeah. This video is actually quite a bit longer. There's a couple videos that I had that, or else I wasn't going to be able to fit everything in that I wanted to show today. So a few videos have a couple of different exercises. I like the cat-cow for, once again, you know, all my clients. Great way to kind of take away some of the neural tension in the spine itself. Sometimes when people have a little bit of a, you know, rounding of the spine in one which way or you know, another, whether it's the high spine, mid spine, or low spine, you know, if you make them do a high position spine, which is, you know, more so that cat, and then we come down into like a cow there, you know, it teaches the extremes. It teaches the high and the low points, and it gives the brain a little bit of a better idea of where the middle is and where it can be. So it's a great exercise there to help the brain find the movement too. We went to a switchback twist here, and what I mean by that is he is switching directions each time he goes for this twist. So we activated the core And now I want his body to have to, adjust to a change of direction, a change of movement pattern with his feet and his hands, and kind of playing them together. We have showed a couple of variations of twist already. I can put it a little bit close to the sense of like closing a car door. Maybe if you have groceries in your hands though too, and you're, a little bit off balance, although sometimes the weight helps you stay in balance. We don't want us to have to deliver power and have the fear of losing balance at that point. So when we can practice this aspect a little bit, it usually seems to replicate outside pretty well for Bill and anybody else. Bill, a little feedback there. What do you think about some of these twists?
This actually is very useful. Closing doors without stumbling. You have something in your arms. You're a little off balance. You're pulling or pushing, and you don't realize how many different little elements need to be strong and how important balance is until you fall down. And this is part of the exercise that I think has helped me keep from falling and stay more active.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's very cool.
Mitch, I think somebody
here's
wanted
another one.
Oh,
go ahead.
I think somebody wanted you to demonstrate the dead bug. Mine
Wanted me. Gotcha. So I'll go back to that video here. I think it was this one, I do believe. Yep. So that is the dead bug there. Are we still saying, or we think we need to do a little bit of a...
I wonder if you could demonstrate it. I don't think we need to break away from the videos. We have some recordings of that. Yeah. Sorry about the intro.
No, you're good. I think the dead bug here looks, it looks really great. I wonder if I can pause that. Let's see. Can I pause on the, nope. Okay. So, with the dead bug, the biggest idea is that when he starts on top, his hands are straight up to the ceiling and his knees are right above his hips. When his knees go above his hips, it allows the pelvis to kind of rock back towards the ground. It's a little bit of a cheat there. And then when we just went over that core bracing, I want his back to be a little bit more, almost kind of flatter and having contact with the ground, the low back. And when he does that, so when he moves his limbs and goes over top and touching the ground with his arm and his foot, the spine has a tendency of gravitating up towards the ceiling or towards the sky. So when Bill does not let that happen, it teaches the body to brace the core and move with the limbs. Hopefully that gives a little bit more understanding of that exercise there. And yes, I'm happy to do it myself as well, but I think we're going to keep it onto this video section first to get through these. And if we need to do some more there, I can do that as well.
Sounds good.
So I think we left off here. This is just a little bit of a different variation. I'm making Bill again, work on his balance. We like to do a lot of rowing. It's great for, getting kind of the posterior chain, posterior meaning backside of the body. As we talked about beforehand, when Bill first walked in, we had a little bit of some rounding of the shoulders, or a lot of bit of some rounding of the shoulders. And so we wanted to work some of the musculature in the back side of the shoulders so that it kind of supports his body a little bit better. What you need to think about is, we have muscles around our structure, our bone structure, and our bones want to sit just like the way a skeleton sits in a science classroom, relatively neutral. And so at that point, you got to think about what muscles are keeping the neutral skeleton, the neutral spine position. And if there's, a rounding somewhere, there's a lack of firing in certain muscles. Yes, there are certain muscles in Bill that are going to be much harder to work than others, but we haven't had, we've had a lot of success getting most things to at least fire and contract, to the point where we can at least get them to activate, try to support a little better, or completely get stronger as well. So good little exercise here to kind of tie in some of the coordination. So
after I pull on the weight, I'm a little off balance, and the weight is pulling on me. So a good chunk of the exercise is not just generating enough force to bring the weight up, but not toppling on the way out again.
Totally. Exactly. So with multiple things moving, it's once again, it's just, on a simple concept, I'm trying to distract Bill. I don't want him to fall, but I want him to get pretty close to feeling like he might, and that's when we're going back into that area of uncomfortable zones where we really create a lot of growth. And you'll see that on the next exercise too. This is a staple exercise for Bill and I. I think he has expressed to you guys a few times. Bill, is it 47 steps in your house that lead up to your house? Not even in it. 42 to the front door. So besides the sense that it takes about an hour to get up there anyway, and I've done. Trust me, it's quite the procedure up in Portland. Some of our stairs in our old houses here are they're large stairs too. So it's windy, it's intense, so we really needed to work on the sense of being comfortable with this, creating force into the ground and changing direction. So Bill, for the most part, yes, we usually will climb stairs, forward, but I want to challenge, that position in all different areas, because like when I talked about the structure, the skeleton, we have muscles in all different areas that keep it in the middle. So if Bill walks forward and backwards all day long, well, I also need him to have some muscle activation and the muscles that'll control him to go left and right too. So it's not just the movements that we do all the time that we want to practice. We want to be versatile, so we can, adjust in case we need to. That looks really awesome. So yes, we've really progressed there too. We started with this sense of just like stepping over a line, lifting the foot and stepping over. Then we just did just the platform. Now Bill can go upwards to about 2 or 3 risers on there. I've got I do want to express this too. Bill's holding on to a dowel piece and I'm just barely outside of the frame there, and I am holding on to it. So he's got a little bit of feedback there, being able to put his hands in there. As we progress, I'll drop it sometimes. That might have been actually when he smiled right there. I might have messed with him a little bit. Making it a little bit more difficult is not a bad thing. Our body needs to know what happens when all of a sudden our crutch is gone.
I want to interject
and
here.
Then here's one of, go ahead, Bill. Yes.
So we were looking at getting, moving from our house, which is a crazy house to be in, given the steps, or installing like a stair lift. But I'm holding off for now. I mean, I don't know when, and I anticipate I will decline again in terms of leg strength, but I'm hoping to forestall that as long as possible. And the balance and the leg strengthening exercises is a big piece of that. Of what prompted me to work with Mitch is like I wanted to stay in my house, and I saw that was something I was risking.
Absolutely. So I can let Bill explain this next one because I think he has more fun with this exercise than necessarily it is beneficial, but that's mostly just because he has so much fun with it because he gets to push me around now. So when we do this one, this is a lot of feedback for both of us, both actually usually kind of panting out of this a little bit. We'll go for anywhere from 30 seconds upwards to 60 seconds, possibly even 90. It's a long time, and I'll give him some different pushes. He'll give me some different pushes. And the idea is to just try to create kind of that equal push and pull from both sides to where the dowel just kind of sits right where it's at. Yes, I'm going to make him change direction sometimes. I'll give him a little extra push on my left hand instead of the right and maybe pull it, so I'll do some things that I don't want him doing because I'm trying to make it hard for him. But yes, Bill usually surprises me a few times and throws me in all of a sudden where I didn't see one coming, and we adjust as well as we can. But great proprioception here. He really feels the force coming and having to adjust with the force. There's often times where we can take slips and falls, whether it's weather conditions outside. With Bill's steps specifically, there's a lot of moss on there from some of the trees that we have here in Portland. So being able to adjust to a little bit of change of step, change of direction, maybe change of stability, is really important too. It has some great feedback towards the body and then moving outside as well.
And I have called, the people who are responsible for monitoring for elder and disabled abuse, and they'll be knocking on your door shortly, Mitch.
Yeah, you don't know where I live, I don't think, actually, so I think I'm a little bit safe there, but I wouldn't put it past you, my man. No, we Bill and I have a great time. We really do. I've emphasized this a few times. We know each other really well. I find that to be really important. I expressed this to a few people that I've actually chatted with as well through the FSH webinars and stuff too. Of building the rapport with the person that's going to help you is huge too. There's definitely days where Bill probably comes in and maybe doesn't quite want to work out right then. Maybe he was busy and having fun doing something else, and maybe the workout doesn't sound awesome. So having energy and having the workout partner that sometimes can keep you accountable there too is really important. You create a good relationship. For the most part, a lot of us are relatively busy with just busy lives and work and stuff like that too. So having some time, devoted into your schedule to allow yourself to get in exercise is also just key. I can't express enough of what, recovery is going to be for you too, whether it is the sense of, massage work or, eating really well. I can talk probably for 9 hours about how much sleep we need to do. Bill is also a sleep doctor. He will do the same thing for you. Sleep is super, super important. We actually have our podcast tonight that we are doing specifically on just sleep and recovery. There's a lot of things that go along with it, so do remember as you start to exercise, or maybe you're increasing, the frequency or increasing the intensities, we also need to plan in for recovery. When we are exercising, we're not necessarily growing. We're actually beating up our muscles. We're breaking down the muscle tissue. And at that point, our nervous system then can, hopefully turn on and help repair. And that is something that you need to pay attention to as well. How quickly does your body repair and recover? If we're super sore, should we get rolling again the next day and go into high intensities? No, it's not smart. So you need to listen to your body, listen to the feedback that it gives, and certain exercises might not be best for all people as well. So that's something that we also need to remember. It's very important, and it's a very, big concept to remember, that everybody is a tad bit different.
Mitch, I want to address a question that comes from Judy Stanley. She says, I'm not able to stand straight without using my arms to keep me upright. She walks very flexed. I'm not sure, without an aid, but uses a rollator to help her stand straight. Is that due to weak back muscles? Please show me some exercises for that. And she says, I have lumbar stenosis. I don't know if that's a typo or if she means lumbar lordosis, or she also has lumbar stenosis on top of that.
Yeah, lumbar stenosis is something different. So, lumbar stenosis for the most part can also be helped if it's not fixed. A lot of things can be beneficial with just the core activation. When it comes to standing, my big spots are talking about the glutes, your gluteal muscles. We've got one big muscle that people know about, more of our butt cheek area, but there's multiple glute muscles there too. Just to put it lightly, there's 200-ish muscles or 200-ish bones and 600-ish muscles. So there's a lot of things that we're consistently and always, controlling. When it comes to the sense of it being 200 bones, yes, there's a lot of little ones too. There's a good section of big ones, but there's so many different actions that our body can do. So do not get stuck just thinking that it's a one exercise fits all, or a one muscle is going to make the big difference. So try to have that routine that tries to work a good amount of the full body. And if you're doing multiple days in a week, you break them up. Sure. You don't have to do the full body every day if you are actually touching base, multiple times throughout the week. If you're just doing once a week, I would absolutely recommend you try to touch on multiple spots, multiple joints. Think about the areas of our joints and all the different tissue that is around it. it's a lot of different muscle tissue too, not just skin. There's muscles down there that we need to activate for our support system to stay neutral. So, you know, a simple answer again would just be going back towards the hip and glute muscles would be a great way to start, to make sure that we can kind of have some, I call it the control center. You know, your hips are kind of your control center there. So we can't really control much without more of like a center focal point. And, you know, that's a great spot for you to start.
Can I ask a question? It's June. I think often, I mean, a lot of people have back pain, and they may think that, I mean, I've had back pain at times in my life, and you might think that since that's where the pain is, that is where the muscle is weak. But I learned through my own experience in talking to some, you know, trainers, is it's really more often the core that is, you know, in the front of the body or the side. And so, you know, that I address these sort of what seem to be back issues by focusing on core exercises. Is that
Absolutely
generally a valid observation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, I can totally go into, you know, a lot of details because unfortunately, like I said, we have a lot of joints. You know, I'm going to put an example out there just so I can kind of, you know, relate to probably some people that have had this issue before. I rolled my ankle playing basketball when I was younger, and I rolled it very badly. I was black and blue up to the knee. And so after that point, I developed, you know, a lack of stability in that ankle. And I was a restaurant worker at this time, so I had to walk on it a lot. And so my gait changed. And so when we are standing our whole body on our feet all day, especially during a restaurant shift, you know, we hope that things are in line. So the easiest way to explain this is that I was not in line with my ankle, and that sent off, you know, a ripple effect all the way up, and it ended up starting to bother my knee, my hip, and my low back. And I had to change that by working on mobility and some soft tissue work around my ankle. And then once I did that, I had to then tie it back in. I didn't have to teach myself how to squat again or lunge again or run again. It's more so of allowing yourself to get into the positions that we need to. When we squat, our knees need to be able to go forward. Our ankles need to be able to do something called dorsiflex, and that's allowing the knee to go forward. If our knees don't go forward, we can't really bring our center of mass over the top of our midfoot and thighs. We end up kind of leaning backwards, and that is kind of a disconnection there too. So, you know, going back to just a simple answer, we need to be connected from, you know, head to toe. You know, I've sang that song a million times to my clients, and then they usually finish, but the hip bone's connected to the knee bone, you know, and we all know that song. It's real, it's valid, and we need to find, you know, those programs and workouts that help connect the dots a little bit. That's another analogy I'll use a lot, is connect your dots. Yep. You know, and we have dots from our foot to the tip of our fingers, and there's a lot of muscles and actions to try to control within.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a question again from Judy, that in the video where you're pushing on the cane, Bill, up and down, forward, back, what is going on in that? Is it resistance or the other way?
Mitch is trying to throw me off balance, and I'm trying to keep my balance. There is some resistance and pushing, but it's mostly how do I compensate for rapid movements and changes of force?
Right. And then you have the dowel to hold on to, so that it lowers your risk of falling, I guess, while you're doing this too.
Yes. Double whammy there too, is definitely a safety prevention in the sense of, you know, I mean, you know, either one of us could fall, you know, so it does give us a little bit of, you know, more of that stability there too.
Right.
I will do some random pushes on Bill. Like I might push for about 5 seconds, and then all of a sudden step back and not push. And what happens if the push against him is no longer present? Is he going to fall forward?
Right.
So if I change the push, you know, he has to adjust, and he has to adjust really quick. Obviously, if he does fall forward, that's where I'm there too, and we can kind of balance each other out there. But it's really about reaction. A lot of it is the reaction training. So like I said, if we have a slip and fall, oftentimes when it's icy out and we walk outside and we slip and fall, we don't have very long to say, just pause for a moment. I think I need to do this real quick. You're gonna go down. You know, gravity is quick. So that's what we're trying to play that reaction time for where maybe he can catch himself a little sooner in the sense of us going all the way down.
Oh, I see. Okay. I had a question too about you were doing these sort of, I guess, rowing exercises and working around the scapula, I guess, back. And that's an area that many people with FSHD experience weakness early.
Yep, absolutely.
And so I'm wondering, maybe Bill, can you say, what difference, was it possible to bring back strength in these muscles that, and how did that show in terms of, did you have less scapular winging or have improved range of motion with your
I definitely have improved range of motion. I'm not looking at my back so much, and I can't comment on the scapular winging, but I definitely have improved range of motion, and my serratus is stronger. My internal and external rotation at the shoulder is stronger. Deltoid has always been pretty strong. I don't know, rhomboid, supraspinatus, infraspinatus. What do you think, Mitch?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, 100% on everything he just said. The lats, some of the primary muscles, the big muscles in the backside of the body were huge for us, So as I said, Bill walked in with, relatively rounded shoulders, and when we think rounded shoulders, there are some bodybuilders that also are rounded shoulders because they become so tight and they work their muscles so much. But just because a muscle is technically short and small in size, it does not mean it's strong. So what I really did there was working a lot of pull for Bill, allowed the sense that the muscles back there would then pull his structure back and would allow for the muscles in the front side to be a little bit more normal length. So with that normal length, it allows the postural, position to be a little bit more center. I'll use this analogy a lot as well, a trampoline. If we have a trampoline out, and most people know what a trampoline looks like, there's springs all the way around. And if there's some springs that are tighter than others, it's going to put tension possibly in a different area. And that is the sense of, a little bit like what you talked about there, June, with referred pain, and back pain, is that it's not always like where you hurt is not always where the problem is. And that's where I got kind of in that tangent about talking about my ankle roll, is that I had more so back pain. I didn't have ankle pain. I mean, I still kind of did from such a bad sprain, but more of the pain gravitated to my lower back. And so, you'll see people at the gym, they just want to go and stretch their lower back and they're like, oh, I feel so good. And they leave and they're like, oh, I feel so much better. But then maybe 30 minutes later, it's just like right back to it, or possibly worse, because you actually just stretched out muscles that were already irritated. And, that's what we have to try to fix, is how do we fix those springs on that trampoline that are being irritated? Is it the springs that are irritated that I need to fix, or is it the other side that then takes off the tension of the original side?
Right.
So, it is hard. There's so many things that we have to, listen to, watch, and, it's complex. But
we're now trying to
there are a
work
lot of
on,
people out there that.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Bill. No, you're good.
We're one muscle group now that my shoulders are further back, and I've developed some of the back muscles. We're now trying to work, and I have some range of motion. We're now trying to develop the pec muscles more, and I didn't expect to see any recovery, but I'm seeing a little bit of return of function there as well.
That's awesome.
I'm hoping maybe this will be the year that I could do a push-up again.
Wow, well, that'd be awesome.
Yep.
We have maybe take one more question from the audience. Matt asks, can you give a sense of starting point and progression on any exercise? So maybe take an example of something where, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago, you know, how do you, you know, you've done a lot of work, obviously. So how did you get there? You know, where did you start?
Yeah, absolutely. Bill, let's talk about, let's use a little bit of this dowel, you know, us kind of wrestling that it looks like, you know, because I mean, this is definitely a progression. It's intense. We both become tired, you know, it's a little bit of a metabolic conditioning for him too. So that's always a kind of a double whammy. But what was that exercise, Bill, that we did at 24 Hour Fitness, and we walked the line? What do you remember what I called that?
The Frankenstein Walk?
It was really close to a Frankenstein. Yeah, we had the Robotic Walk. So the Robotic Walk was the elbow to the knee. So as you walked the line, you just rotated your opposite elbow and brought your knee up. And that built a lot of proprioception in the sense of, you know, rotation in the body, which is natural as we walk. Not a ton, but it is present. And then the ability of, you know, lifting the knee and connecting the brain to touching the elbow to the knee, you know, creates a little bit of flexion of our spine, which is forward rounding. And technically, flexion of the spine, you should be using your core. So, you know, there's a lot of exercises that we can break down something pretty simple and have it to be a focus on a lot of different, you know, muscle groups. You know,
I
but
mean,
then
talking more about
to
the exercise with the dowel wrestling, I think the preceding exercise, I think the one that helped me a lot to get to that point was falling forward off the 1-step or 2-step and then catching my weight with the flexed leg and then pushing back up onto the step. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without, you know, 2 prior exercises that improve my balance and leg strength. So they're all kind of modules that build on each other, and you have to start where you are, and I guess start with passive range of motion and then active range of motion, and then strengthening with assistance, then strengthening with less assistance, and strengthening against higher resistance, and then more reps, and then build in more functions that are tied in with it. I mean, in a nutshell, it's very modular. It builds on itself. It's dynamic, and it's
absolutely
builds.
Yeah. And Matt, I hope that, you know, somewhat answers your question there. I know some of those, you know, we're showing a relatively progression, you know, here. You know, something super simple. If you're just sitting on like a chair, you know, you can have somebody or yourself, if you can, you know, put force down on your knee and you're trying to lift it up, and then put force in the outside of your knee and you're trying to push it out, and put force in the inside of your knee, you're trying to pull it in. So, you know, anything like that is also an easy way to get going. You know, I want Bill to feel his muscles. I want him to know what contraction feels like when he's using the muscle, and then try to get him up and stand him up and have him use it there too. You know, so it's almost, you know, the test and retest. So maybe we'll try it first and he's unable to do it. Then we'll go and try to activate individual small muscles. And that's anything from, like I said, sitting down on a chair and just playing with, you know, forces from somebody else doing it to you, or putting it into a wall, or even just, you know, if it's just sliding your hand up and down a wall to feel the actions happening. When you're pressing your arm overhead, your pec muscles do fire, your deltoid muscles do fire. You know, so you need to get connected to your brain and body there too. You know, try to keep it simple. You know, unless you are advanced, then yeah, there's a lot of room for regression and progression. You just got to be creative. Creativity is big there too. You know, it's really not necessarily, like I said, the one, you know, size fits all, or the one exercise is just like the fix it exercise. You know, I wouldn't have a job if it was that way. You know, I love my job and I love working with Bill, but yes, it is also, you know, the way I put, you know, a house over my family and, you know, food on the table. So it is, you know, it's very, very important to the sense that, you know, people need to move, and we need to be creative to whether it's a sense of being, you know, accountable to yourself to actually work out. You know, that's a big part of my job there too. But then also being creative of the sense of someone's like, well, that exercise just doesn't work for me. You know, there's a couple exercises that don't work for my ankle. I was also an overhead athlete, and so my right shoulder has some issues if I do bench pressing or pressing right over my head, especially if it's with a lot of weight. So I can't really do that, but I need to know that about myself. I don't want to do it just to say I did it and be in pain or discomfort for a few days. I'm just going to avoid it. If I have pain somewhere, I need to figure out why. You know, and if I need to activate something because I'm not able to do something in, you know, the outside, you know, my outside life rather, you know, I need to figure out how to do it or activate certain muscles. So, you know, figure out you as well, adjust to your schedule, adjust to your program. And then, you know, that like I've said last week, you know, that's why I call an electrician to do the wiring in my house. I don't know it. I don't necessarily have the time to learn it because it's a high risk as well. You know, it's not just you know, give it a shot and see how it goes. There could be some big repercussions to trying to wire your own house electricity, you know, wise. So call some professionals, ask help, seek help, you know, use YouTube, be a smart filter. Anybody can post things on YouTube. So that can be sometimes a problem, but there's a lot of good information out there too that we can definitely seek and filter through.
Mitch, I was asked, I guess that we were asked, how long before you started to see improvement? I wasn't convinced that there was any improvement for the first few months.
Yeah, I would say first few months for sure. But also in that sense of, you know, Bill is coming into me at an enormous gym, which is already, you know, kind of a step out of his, you know, comfort zone there. And I'm going to sit here and tell him, yeah, why we can do it. And he's going to sit there and tell me I'm a very, very brilliant doctor who has studied this for a long time. And I'm, you know, I don't know, Bill, I was 25 years old-ish, you know, and I'm just sitting there telling him, yeah, well, let's do it. This sounds great. So, you know, it's tough.
I did not have buy-in.
It's tough. You've got to build rapport. You got to build the relationship, you know, and which is what rapport is, you know, build that relationship with the person or with yourself, you know, connect to your body, learn about your body. You know, those are big steps too. Yeah. So not necessarily was the first couple months of what we were doing going to make a huge difference. You know, it did, but it was also a mental thing that we played with too. Yeah. So we got to remember that. Get into the idea. You need to like to do this at least a little bit, or else it's probably not going to work.
Yeah, and find the person you like doing it with.
100%. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, we are already at the end of our hour again, so I thank you both so much. I'm going to bring back Beth to say make a few announcements. Thank you.
Certainly, yes.
Wonderful.
Oh, you guys just are inspiration to everyone in our community. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you guys are the best. Thanks everyone again for joining our amazing, I'm going to call you guys the FSHD Fitness Squad. That's what you guys are. So
we like it. That's great.
Thanks for joining the squad today. We're going to be updating our Sequester Camp page with this video recording and other information as it arises. So check back to our Sequester Camp page on our website. Bill and Mitch will be back next Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern, but just for 2 more Monday sessions. But know that these recordings will always live on our website, always live on our YouTube channel, and you can always visit Mitch's Instagram to see these workout videos. They're fun. I love how they're on a circle loop. They're fun to watch Bill. His Instagram page is Mitch Wade PDX. So his name, Mitch Wade PDX. Paul, Dr. Xavier. Wednesday evenings at 9 o'clock Eastern, you can catch our radio show celebrity, Tim Hollenbach, on Facebook Live. And also on Wednesday afternoons at 2 o'clock Eastern, Belinda Miller is still broadcasting her weekly children's book reading, it's getting exciting. Her book is really cute. So be sure to tune in to listen to Belinda. And lastly, this Thursday's educational webinar, our guest speaker is Dr. Rita Perlingiro from the University of Minnesota. She's going to be talking about stem cell research in FSHD, so be sure to tune in on Thursday. It's going to be a good one. Check our events calendar. We've got a lot of chapter meetings that have all gone virtual right now, so you guys can join these chapter meetings from absolutely anywhere. It's kind of cool. So that's it. Take care, everyone. Thank you again, Bill and Mitch, and we'll see you guys next Monday.
Mitch.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.